Well, this is a Freeman's Farm battle report, Fog, Fire, and Fleeing Teacups. It's a tactical thriller. But it all began, as great campaigns do, across the fields of the northern frontier of America. But it started with fog. Not just metaphorically fog of war, but honest to goodness, cotton-draped mist stretched across half the battlefield like a ghostly shroud over Saratoga. John squinted at the field, unsure if there was a river beyond the ridge or a trap. Spoiler, it was both. I was commanding the Americans and sipping an unreasonably good South American roast from my Euro machine. I watched quietly as the red coach approached, John, my dear friend, gallantly leading His Majesty's forces, split Hamilton's brigade across two roads, half to Freeman's Farm and half to Coulter's Farm, intending on outflanking the rebels and keeping his boots clean. This is a black powder scenario, slightly modified for historical accuracy, but stay tuned and watch the fun of two good friends. Well, the scenario is going to start. We have the British coming in off of the road, one of Burgoyne's columns under Hamilton, coming up the road. It's dense fog in the morning, hasn't lifted yet. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning, it's just starting to rise. They know that up ahead are a couple of farms. That's their objective, and to push on from there. They know the enemy is close, but not quite sure where. They've heard Morgan's men are in the area, but they won't catch them anyway. They're elusive cowards fighting from the trees. But if they do catch you, they're really awesome marksmen. Could hit a squirrel out of a tree, 150 yards. But anyway, Hamilton was cautious and threw out his pickets. They could hear the old mill running and the creak of wagons starting to pull away. You hear noise and commotion from up front. Just normal farm life, animals. But yet, an eerie fog lays upon the battlefield. Of course, they don't know that it's a battlefield yet. But the British move silently, just the clang of their pots pounding up against their bayonets, quietly moving up the road, solemn, disciplined, knowing their job, not quite understanding why they're here, but yet they move on. So John is moving cautiously forward. However, we had a rule of loyalist scouts go missing. At the start of turn 3, you roll a d6. On a 1 or 2, this event is triggered where the loyalist scouts sent ahead by General Burgoyne went missing and would further delay him. That he passed, and now he rolled for his native allies, the Indians, and they decided to also come on board this turn and not be delayed. John's Canadians and Indians, he rolled for their entry, and they have arrived on point B, coming up through the dense woods. However, Fraser did not pass his reinforcement roll and is further delayed from entering the board. So it's now the American top of the turn 3, and the Brits are moving down the road, clingy of bayonets and canteens, quiet as they are. But however, through the mist and the trees, they hear the cracking. They think it's further smoke, but no, British people are falling like crazy. Is it Morgan? Yes, it is the elusive Morgan as he comes out through the tree lines, firing at the pickets, pinging them and shooting Brits and letting them fall as they are. Boom, 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 boom. And there's Morgan himself with his trusted Indian Tonto. Oh, wrong movie. All right, so the Americans on turn 3 rolled for desertion with intelligence. It's only once per game, but on a roll of a 5, a small group of Hessian deserters stumbles into the American lines with crucial intel about the British disposition. The Americans can pick one enemy brigade at any time during the game, and it falters its command role to cause desertion and internal confusion. Morgan's rifles come out, and in the mist they fire at the British pickets, causing 1 damage and 1 demoralization. They shot brilliantly, causing 6 hits, but John, being masterful he is, was able to wipe out 5 of those hits. Okay, recap of turn 4. It was very, very interesting. Morgan and Dearborn's Light fired off at the pickets, causing some pretty significant damage and confusion. The pickets, however, fired back with British resolve and caused 1 damage on Morgan's unit and demoralized. They reeled, not expecting the British to have such good firepower and resolve. The British, however, Hamilton's brigade, moved up 1 unit and turned a line, but failed his command roles, so the rest are confused on what to do. However, on the far left flank, the Indians are slowly but surely coming up through the woods, with the Canadians close behind. Fraser is nowhere to be found, as he failed his entrance role once again. But where are the Americans? Soon we shall see. Well, the Brits can't hear them or see them yet, but they can certainly hear them. The Americans screaming and yelling and coming on. Viva la Emperor. Oh, wrong period. Yeehaw! Anyway, here comes Poor's brigade, released by Horatio Gates under the leadership of Benedict Arnold. And this is Poor's brigade coming on multiple entry points, coming down off the Bemis Heights to confront the British. They're ready. The muskets cleaned, uniforms pressed, well fed with oatmeal. All right, here we are. Turn 5. Morgan fires, clears out the pickets. Not a one was left surviving. 3 of them were running, but they shot him in the back. But I think those were his Indian allies. But they're done. The Brits, in reaction, formed line on the road with a British column coming up behind it. John thinks that's very historical. I think it's stupid. His British line is demoralized, but getting ready to take a pop-off at the Dearborn Lights, if they can catch him, coming up the road. But the Americans here, off to the distance, yes, Fraser finally made it. Fraser's on the board, coming up around the right side. The Colonials, Poor's brigade is pouring on and forming up, coming off the Bemis Heights. Oh, what will happen? Oh, what will happen?
Oh my God!
All right, as we're playing, things failed.
Yeah.
The British
did
their first fire.
It was horrible.
Morgan retreated. So did Dearborn Lights back to safety of the
Canadians are
farm
moving.
as Poor's brigade is pouring in. Pouring in. The British were forced to line, slowing their advance. The Canadians are slowly pushing up through the woods. John is frustrated with the Indians.
Frustrated with the Canadians too.
Frustrated with Canadians too.
Frustrated with the whole thing.
Yeah, he's just frustrated in general, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But anyway, Poor is forming up, and yeah, he's rolling now for his command rolls.
Ooh.
And John just got happy.
Crushed it.
Crushed it.
Crushed.
Well, here we are, top of turn 6, or bottom of turn 6. The Americans just moved. Poor's brigade is already starting to form line. Dearborn's lights retreated. They took 2 casualties. They're moving back into reserve. Morgan is holding Freeman's farm, a built-up area, and pretty secure with that. Mr. Freeman and his wife, after Morgan had a discussion with him, go running off to the British. The Morgan's troops are forming line. They've did very, very well forming up along the fence line because they can hear the woods and what's happening with a reserve regiment behind. So Arnold feels very, very good about his situation, and we even have another regiment back here in reserve, the New York regiment. But things are forming up quite nicely. John moved up. He's stretching his line out to cause a little bit of an envelopment, doing very well with that. His lines are moving up, and General Burgoyne has now entered the field and is trying to dictate orders, but he's such a lousy commander that he's not doing a good job about it. Fraser is moving up along the side with a very, very scary brigade. I hope the Americans are able to hold that off. Anyway, it's turning now into a very, very tense engagement. He passed. He passed.
Yes.
Thank God. Burgoyne with his lousy command rating.
Sweet
Such
baby.
a lousy general.
As I always say, sweet baby Jesus.
Sweet baby Jesus. And they formed line and moved up.
Oh,
They're getting ready, but the brigade almost missed.
snap food.
But John, with his wonderful rolling, Morgan snapped off a fire, had 3 hits and a demoralization. John passed them all.
I failed
And
that
he
one.
failed that one.
It's
Failed.
It's
That's
over.
it. It
Oh.
failed. Okay. Now we start the British turn. The Americans have now formed line. With Arnold's leadership and using his command roles, he was able to get the Americans in a good firing position. Morgan is still holding Freeman's farm against very difficult odds. Dearborn's lights retreated back, and under Morgan's leadership was able to pull off a damage marker to their stamina, so they'll be back into the fight, probably heading over to the sheep. You know how those lights like sheep. That's what John said. Learned's brigade finally came on the board. They're going to be bolstering that right American flank, and it looks like Poor is sending over another additional regiment here. Who is this? This is the 3rd New Hampshire coming into a reserve position here behind the walls. The Americans have formed up their line, but the British are coming in a pretty strong way. Mr. and Mrs. Freeman, the Freemans are running away from their farm, heading to the British line. I don't think Morgan will do much about it. He always have had their way with them. Mr. and Mrs. Coulter are staying by the farm under the protection of the rebellion. They've been ordered to make a pot of coffee for Arnold. So Morgan rolls a blunder to move the Dearborn lights. John wants to film this to see what happens. The scurvy dog. The scurvy dog wants to film this.
Oh, yeah.
All right, here comes the big die roll, John.
Here we go, kids.
What do we have on a blunder table?
We're going to get nice and close.
5.
Oh, that's not good, Kevin.
5. Move forward. The unit will attempt to make one move to its own front, making one move in its own front quarter. Yes!
Oh, my gosh. I told you it could be good. Only him. Only Kevin. He has the luckiest die rolls ever, people. Look at this. Good Lord. Kevin, get the hell out of here. Kevin goes in yards, not inches. Here we go.
All right.
Looking good, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is now the 9th turn. The Indians have come through the woods and took a little bit of a hammering from the 1st Connecticut. The Canadians are not yet through the woods. They've been very, very timid. However, Fraser's brigade is moving up on the right side. They'll be in here pretty soon. The American firing line has just done a devastating effect. This British unit right here is staggered and taken a lot of damage, and so has this one. They're just not able to get over that river coming into the American firing line. The reason the American firing line is so potent is that John command roles have not been good to get his forces into play, and has allowed the Americans to put 2 units firing on each British regiment. Morgan decided to shift his firing onto the British column coming across the river, and did an enormous amount of damage to that one, as Leonard's brigade is moving up slowly but surely onto the American right flank, past the cattle. I think there used to be more cattle, but I think that Freeman's men in the rear are eating it right now.
Well, I'll provide a recap. That was such a great time, but it was a classic showdown: British discipline versus American grit, and now a pause for British elegance. You know, John handled the troops quite well. It was a proper British firing line that he tried to create, but known far and wide for John's uncanny dice magic, lifting his trembling hands and summoned the dice gods, and the dice gods ghosted him. In this game, instead of rolling 5 and 6, John rolled an uninterrupted symphony of 1s and 2s. His volleys fluttered through the air like moths in a windstorm. His soldiers might as well have been yelling insults instead of shooting bullets. But John's expression, usually a cocktail of resolve and charm, shifted to one of utter disbelief. He stared at his dice as if they had just slapped him in front of Parliament. But he fought on, brave, determined, until a soft ping interrupted the rhythm of battle. Yes, he had to go. But let's say this, that the British flank got shredded, and it wasn't a good day for John. The field belonged to the Americans. John, ever the gentleman, admitted with a grin that that was the best game I've ever played. We laughed. We admired the carnage. The table was stunning. The battle was gripping. But in the end, it was the Americans' staggering volley. Morgan and Hamilton's brigade, elite, proud, and brutal, just melted. The Battle of Freeman's Farms ends in silence, but in laughter, legend, and one well-timed card from Kevin. It was a masterful day. Thanks, John, for a great time. Love you, man.